So, if you've been keeping up with Rent-A-Girlfriend, or some of you just go and look for the stuff even though you don't read the manga, which still don't understand, but alright. Reiji Mijime, the author of the story, recently made a post on Twitter. The post pretty much says, the final round is decided. Pretty much, he essentially said he has the ending in plan, or he has the finale of the story in plan. This is pretty interesting news because no news media outlet reported anything prior. Like, you know how when you go to Twitter, there's like these news media outlets that tend to report, hey, look, like there's news that the story's ending. None of them did anything like that. And Reiji did this post all of a sudden out of nowhere. He doesn't explain. He just says the final round is decided or the final chapter is decided. That's it. That's all he gives us.
My work is done here.
What do you mean your work is done? You didn't do anything.
Didn't I?
And what's funny is pretty much like all those outlets I was talking about, like they immediately like say Rent-A-Girlfriend creator Mijima decided on the final chapter for the series, and like Rent-A-Girlfriend manga says the final chapter of the series has been decided. So everybody's just kind of like just regurgitating what he said, but all he said was it was decided. First off, I just gotta really point out this is extremely vague. So for anyone who thinks this might be ending anytime soon, there's literally no indication of that. So he went from saying in interviews, I know how it's going to end, to now I know when I'm gonna end it. So that's pretty much the biggest thing. And so a lot of people, of course, freaking out. They're like, oh yeah, it's gonna end. Like some people are happy, you know, jumping up and down, worst series ever. And then there's some people who are sad, who it's leaving like an empty void inside of us. And I think I'm one of the, I'm the latter. I'm the person who definitely feels kind of like that emptiness that this story might be ending at some point. However, there's also more stuff that's out, and it's the fact that Hiroyuki, who's the writer for Kanojo mo Kanojo, hilarious ass comedy. Like this is a really funny romance comedy. It's super self-aware. If you've seen Ahu Girl, same writer. So if you guys enjoy those series, check this one out. But what's funny, Hiroyuki made the same exact post like right after Reiji did, which gives me the indication they're both trolling, because nothing has been announced and they both said the same thing, and we have literally nothing to work off of. So there's this account called Shonen Magazine News, and one of the things they do is they post mangaka comments every time a new chapter comes out. One thing that Reiji and Hiroyuki tend to do like all the goddamn time, if you look at it right here, one of the things they do is they say what the other person's supposed to say. So Hiroyuki will say exactly what Reiji did, and Reiji will say exactly what Hiroyuki did. These two artists pretty much have like a bromance. They're like buddies. They get along. These dudes are so buddy. They literally reference each other in their respective mangas. I'm not even fucking kidding. Hiroyuki had an entire chapter dedicated to like one of his characters enjoying to read a story called Rent-A-Boyfriend, and then Reiji literally had one of his characters reading a manga called Boyfriend. So it's not even fucking subtle. They like really like these two are like pals. They fucking love each other, and this is shit they like do all the goddamn time. This is why I kind of think they might be low-key trolling. Maybe one of them is actually ending. Maybe, for example, Kanojo mo Kanojo might actually be ending, while Rent-A-Girlfriend is going through a different direction. But again, it could also be true. This is what I mean. It's like, because it came out of nowhere, because we have no information to work with, this could be 100% true. This could be the most bullshit troll I have ever fucking seen. And this man has been known to troll, like toss red herrings into the story just to fuck with people. Like he baits people. I've called him a master baiter. Reiji memes, okay? And people fall for it all the fucking time. They get upset and they whine and they bitch. It's fucking hilarious. And because Kaguya-sama ended recently, everyone's losing their fucking minds, and they're like, oh my god, the peak romance ended, yada yada. So with that being said, personally, this is what I think. While this information came out and it might possibly end at some point, I actually don't think it's going to be anytime soon. You could interpret this a million different ways. For example, Reiji could be ending the rental girlfriend saga, aka they're not renting anymore and maybe Chizuru quits her job and you get to see more of their life. So that could be one thing he's doing. Another thing would be like, he could be saying, I know how I'm gonna end this story in its entirety at a much later date. Because right now there's a lot of things in the story still left to cover. So I doubt he's just gonna end it just like that, you know? One thing people don't realize is Reiji, the author, actually tends to plan in advance, like way in advance. So for example, an arc that takes place around like chapter 100-ish was planned all the way back in chapter like 50 or even earlier than that. And this was something Reiji always wanted to do. There's some stuff that takes place like later in the 200s that he planned all the way back in the 100s. So he plans things way in advance. This could be miles into the future. And the other thing too is Rent-A-Girlfriend is currently kind of in rising popularity. Like, despite how the internet feels, despite like how much hate there is for this story on the internet and how like content creators tend to react to this story and all that stuff that's going on, its popularity is rising. Like, its sales are rising. The anime is getting more views. Like, the second season had a lot of issues, but it got views. People watched it, people were interested. So with that being the case, it's kind of important to point out, like, this series is quite successful and it's still growing. Another thing too is that Rent-A-Girlfriend, despite like that arc that a lot of people don't like and often use to just point out, hey look, this is a really shitty series, I hate it, yada yada yada. Despite all of that, at the current moment, a lot of what Rent-A-Girlfriend is doing is bringing a lot of readers back. Like, a lot of readers are really enjoying what Reiji's currently doing with the story. He's doing a lot of stuff to really make readers happy. So he's really reigniting the love for this series, and he's pretty much regaining that trust that a lot of people felt was broken during the Paradise arc. So I don't, like, right now, it just doesn't feel like the time to really be ending the story, in my opinion. Like, as just from a writing perspective, it doesn't feel like the time to end the story. It feels like he's building towards some sort of climax, and then he's gonna go some sort of different direction. Like, all the stuff around this just points at something very different, you know? So it doesn't make sense for this. However, for Kanojo mo Kanojo, it's quite the opposite. Everything about Kanojo mo Kanojo seems to be hinting that it might be ending soon. So this is kind of what I mean. That's kind of the thing about this particular like thing that was kind of announced. It's weird. There's nothing to go off of. It's vague as hell. And we don't know anything. Nobody has said anything in regards to this. Not Reiji, not Hiroyuki, nobody. So that's my interpretation. Tell me what you guys think in the comment sections down below. Like, do you think it's gonna end? Do you think Rent-A-Girlfriend's gonna end really soon? Do you think that's exactly what's gonna end up happening? There is, of course, one more piece of news, and that news is that the Shunji family, the children of the Shunji family, Reiji's second manga that came out quite recently, is coming out of hiatus on November 11th. So if you are some of the few people who read it and actually enjoyed it, here you go. It's gonna come out soon. It's gonna come back in the next issue of Young Animal magazine. This series, I think, got a lot of hate just because of, like, one, a lot of people already hate Rent-A-Girlfriend, so they had this like limited perception of Reiji's writing, so they walked into this one with that same exact mentality because the premise looked a certain way. In reality, when I was actually reading this story, despite not being much, because it's only one volume so far, there isn't really much to work off of, it actually felt really mature, because it's not like there's characters who want certain things that, you know, fit with the genre.
Everybody taught you nothing, boy.
But the people on the receiving end are actually being extremely mature about it. And they're very like, no, it's not what it is. And the way the story goes about describing and exploring it, I think it's really good. I'm actually really intrigued by this one. There isn't really much to work off of at the moment. One understanding people have kind of started to develop with this story and Rent-A-Girlfriend is that Reiji is probably ending Rent-A-Girlfriend to focus on this one. In reality, Reiji's main focus has actually always been Rent-A-Girlfriend. He said this in interviews when this series started. Rent-A-Girlfriend has always been his focus. Shunji family is a second priority, and he even has a second illustrator working with him on this, and I've seen that person on Twitter. Like, I've seen them comment and talk about it. So for this one, I don't think it's as big of an impact on Rent-A-Girlfriend's like longevity than you would think, But yeah, if you are interested in Shunji family, do check it out. The art is really pretty. It's also set in high school, so it's definitely tailored a little bit more to younger audiences. It has some interesting twists and turns at the start, and like it has some like good visual imagery as well with the characters and the presentations. So yeah, that's pretty much all the news at the moment. Rent a Girlfriend might be ending. We don't really know when or how or anything, and of course, people are just gonna probably react and make a whole big deal about it. Some people are gonna hate it, some people are gonna love it. It's gonna go everywhere, who knows. But the fact that people are still talking about it is what's interesting. So if you guys enjoyed this content, please subscribe, hit the like button, and the bell icon to keep up with the uploads, because you know, still a tiny ass channel. And of course, I've been Fate. I don't know if I introduced myself at the start of this video, but yeah. And I'll see you guys next time. Remember, let's mosey.